painless as possible. Most of the people in the room here have given the IAR for numerous years and know what we're doing, but I felt like last year we had new people on staff, didn't really cover things, and I felt like we left people out in the cold, and just wanted to give a quick review so that we are in good position. Also, it just always stresses me not having these, especially as a school that is successful. You never know when the state may come in, and once you make sure our procedures are in place and no one can question the integrity of what we're doing here and the success of our students. So I did want to go ahead and just basically give you some pages that I'd ask that you read and just review. And then just a few reminders I'll go ahead and have you write down. I already know I've got them, I believe 5th grade and 3rd grade schedules, but if you could give me your testing schedules, exact days, and when you do that, I'll go back and look. Those are the two that
I think it was in my weekly,
I'll go back and read it because I do read those. I might have missed it. Okay. The only thing I am asking is that we do not test after April 17th because that will give us a week for makeups in case those kids on that last day are not here. Last year we ran into some issues where we were testing that last week. Kid was sick and there was just no time to make them up because the stomach flu or whatever it is, that for some of our kids that extends to 3, 4, 5 days. So that'll give us an opportunity. I have the human reader scripts already ordered with Mrs. Geltmaker. That went out last week, so we should have enough at every grade level. I think depending on the number of students and also the adults with those students, there's at least 2 to 3 human reader scripts for every grade level of testing, except 8th grade because we only have 1 8th grader testing this year, I believe. 2 8th graders. I think I got 1 for 2 8th graders, Charlie and Nevaeh. So, all right, and then last thing would be your class roster that you will be testing. And this is important for me to set up our sessions. So when we're talking about our special education students, there are some kids that don't leave your classroom and go to the crosscat room, but they still have services. And so those are the students that we want to make sure that if they have extended time, they are on a list in our setup to go to Mr. Stahl's room for that extended time with their students, or with Ms. Conrad, Mr. Scholes. We have to have that set up or a separate test setting for those students. So please give me your class rosters, and then if need be, Mr. Stahl, Ms. Conrad, and Mr. Scholes, I can sit down with the 3 of you. We can set up a schedule, whether it's myself proctoring or somebody else for those extended time kids. And that may make it easy for you. If it's just extended time, I take those kids, test them while you do the human reading to those students. So we'll want to work that out, but I will need those class rosters just as soon as you can because I want to start entering those, if I can, this weekend. It shouldn't be too many changes, but I know there'll be a few. Okay, protocol will be the same as previous years. We will have the materials in the conference room, pencils, paper. We are only going to give gum this year because it seemed like we'd end up with hundreds of mints that nobody wanted, so we'll make sure there's gum for each day of testing for the kids because that seems to be more successful. And then the testing tickets will be in there. So everything will be very much like last year, set up, ready to go, so you should only have to come in, sign the materials out, and then just bring them back when you are done. I will ask that you bring it back, if you test in the morning, bring it back at your lunchtime at the latest, instead of it staying in your room all day, because again, that's where that kind of procedural thing, we could get in trouble for that if it's just sitting around. So, or vice versa, if you're testing in the afternoon, just come and get it at lunchtime, and then take it back to your room, please. All materials will need to come back. So I would just ask that you bring back the pencils because we are reusing those every year as many as we get back. Papers that they write on will need to come back. We will shred those. And then testing tickets come back as well. Just keep them all together, and then I will shred those when I know the session is done. Big thing is once the sessions are open, I will be the one that closes them because I will make sure to run through our makeup lists and make sure all of your kids are made up. And then once it's closed, if anybody screws up, it's me screwing up, not somebody else. So all you'll do is start your session, stop that session, and I will close everything up for you. I'll also make sure everything's open, ready to go.
We lock it. Lock it.
Yes, that's what I mean, yes,
Okay.
lock it. And that's where some of the pages in here, my terminology may not be correct, but I'll have you read the terminology again on that process in the booklet. And then lastly, I will do all makeup sessions, and we'll do my best not to double up tests on the same day to give the kids the opportunity to have success. Now we do have those kids that we have attendance issues with. Those may be a double test day just to make sure they're getting their session in, because we do want 100% of our students tested. Last thing before we go to the pages, I was going to ask, do we want to do some type of rah-rah for the school, or do you like doing things just as grade levels like you've done in the past? I'm not one that likes to do that simply because I don't want the kids to feel more pressure. Then need be, I want it to be very much like the MAP test, that, hey, that's just what we do, we're gonna go do our best, and don't wanna put too much on it for the kids, but I also want the kids really to think about the growth, because that's the big thing for us. Again, we want those exceeds and meets, but we want to see growth in our kids, and we want to make sure that they're displaying that growth. So I was just going to throw it out there, thoughts on some type of all-school deal, whether it's, we give little positive notes on their desks before the test days, little things like that. What do you think?
Fifth grades, I think we're gonna do our own, incentive for the week, so
Okay.
I don't know that, I think that's.
Although, I mean, if the notes were coming from someone like you and Joel and Garen and Rhonda, that might be kind of nice to start out the week for them, but I don't think you need a gigantic assembly.
Okay.
Their former teachers might be kind of cute too, like if kindergarten teachers wrote some notes or something.
I'll reach out and see if some of the other teachers, I know some grade levels have relationships with the younger grade levels that give them little notes of inspiration. I think, was it second grade that?
The buddies,
Yeah, the buddies do that.
Oh, that'd be cute.
So we'll look to go ahead and do something from our end. We won't do an official school activity, but maybe it is notes. I was thinking about that this morning. When you do the greatest thinking in the shower and you can't write anything down, but just doing little notes and maybe having it on kids' desks when they come in on test days, whether it's for myself, Mr. Kilgus, just wishing them good luck and that they're going to do great. So we'll look to do that then.
We could have a gigantic dance party after everybody's done with their tests.
And Miss Holmes is going to supervise,
Exactly.
so it'll be great.
Yeah, I'm known for my dancing.
Yeah.
You may have seen my work.
Why are you so quiet, Brian?
Me?
No, Brian, why are you so quiet about that?
Your reputation speaks for itself.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
quiet over here because I'm being quiet.
All right, real quick, some pages that I will just have you review. Starting at page 3, I do ask you to just do a quick review of the test security administration policies, since you will be responsible to talk about test supervision irregularities, like when kids get sick, you notify the office immediately. We go ahead and lock the test and make up where all of those things that we want to make sure, just review that, please. I will go ahead and fill out the paperwork with you and then submit it to Ms. Skeldmaker, who will document it, then send it to the state. Testing environment, I am going to ask that we are consistent, and this is one thing that every grade level, when they are done, have them read a book. Let's just set the Chromebooks aside. They have a book to read, and they can do that. So I'm asking every grade level, that is what we're going to do. I guess that's one of the other things I am asking of everybody. Cell phones is a big one. Please make sure, junior high especially, talk about testing security, because that will cause an irregularity for the test that we do have to report if a student's cell phone goes off. Please talk to the students and just tell them, hey, I know you carry them. I need you to put it in the basket for the test, so you can take them for the test. That's the only time we ever really make a big deal with the kids of having it. I know a lot of them carry them, keep them off, but if we can make sure with the kids that we just tell them no cell phones during the testing session, and we just put them in our desks or whatever, so that does not become an issue. Page 7, real quick. Please take a look at materials prohibited in the testing environment, just to make sure that we do not have those things going on. Again, you never know when the state might show up, but just it'll give you a list there to keep an eye that if you have to put a piece of butcher paper over something on your wall, just go ahead and do that for the testing day. Page 9 are the actual units and testing times. We are very fortunate and happy this year we are not a pilot school. Chillicothe Junior High is. Yay for them. But we did it last year. We did our time with it. But page 9 has the test sessions, so as you're planning, think about that. From looking at last year, it does not appear to be very different at all, if different at all. Page 11, just before testing items, I will ask in the next day or two, please make sure you can log into Pearson, because if you can't, just get your recovery for your password so you can get in there. And then I would go in and kind of practice going in and make sure you're familiar. So on test day, that's not the day we're figuring out what's going on. Okay, so just go in and make sure that you're comfortable with it before testing. Headphones, please let me know if you need headphones. We had ordered a bunch. I already know some have been used by students that we've just given to them where they're broken. If you need headphones, let us know immediately. We'll order some so that we have decent headphones for the testing, because every ELA test needs headphones. Okay. Page 15, read that calculator section. That will pertain to some people, the math. Like 8th grade, they are allowed a protractor. Those are not provided, but they are allowed to have them if you want. So please read through those rules. Let me jump ahead here. All right, page 25, that is where the scripts begin. So you'll want to find your scripts and just run through those quickly for your grade level. Page 55, after completion, again, just things that you'll want to make sure that you are doing in your classroom. And then the last one is page 56, where kind of the accessibility features, those are the accommodations, but also things that are available during the test. I would also recommend there are practice tests that maybe having your kids do 1 or 2 prior so they are familiar with the tools on there so they can get to them. The older kids, having done it before, may not need as much practice, but I know in 3rd grade, I know you do work with that since it is brand new to them. Familiarity is one of those things that I'd hate for a kid not to be successful simply because that's the first time they've seen it, when I know our kids do really well. All right, I ran through that really quickly because I didn't want to spend too much time for everybody. Questions? I have up here a security sheet that I'll just have you take one and then sign it and just get back to the office. If you want to do it now, you may. But then, any other questions? Okay, I will be available. Make sure we are, if I needed to sit down with Mr. Stahl, Ms. Conrad, and Mr. Scholes, as well as both of you for special education accommodations, things like that, I'll be glad to do it. Big thing that please make sure you read in here about when you're talking accommodations, things like that. We are very careful about communicating to students during the test, that it says clearly in here you can redirect a student, hey, let's focus, get back, but we can't sit there and tell them to answer every question. There's certain language that we just have to be careful with. Take your time, things like that are okay, but anything that discusses a question or might tell them to make sure they're answering more things, that's where you get in that gray, dangerous area. And I know some classes have time limits, say, hey, you need to be working for at least 45 minutes before you can hit submit. And that's fine.
Administrators on here.
Your test administrator, yes. I will then have all of our aides who may administer or proctor, I will have them sign as well. It depends if you're in the room and like Nancy's walking around, she'd be a proctor. If she's the one that actually click start. I hope she's the administrator. Correct.
These are extras. I took one for herself.
Okay. Question? There you go. Yes. So again, I need you to send me a roster of who will be testing in your classroom. Okay? So if you have special education students that work with Brett and they will test with Brett, you do not have them on your class roster. So like Tyler Kinman doesn't go to his classroom, but maybe he gets extended time. He would go on Brett's. Or we need to set up a separate test session because he gets extended time.
Thank you.
He can't have that same test session as the other students. So we'll have to work that out with Brett or myself that we have a session for those students. So, and that same thing, Miss Thompson, like Sean Moore, same thing with him. And I know we'll have quite a few of those kids that with 504s and whatnot. Make sure you do review your 504 plans as well. That's a big one. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. 504s. I'm getting the list. I'm supposed to get the accommodations list, but everybody should have a current 504 for any student. That will say whether or not they have the extended time or whatnot. Please check those as well. I'll do a double check with as soon as Ms. Freeman gets me that full list of accommodations. All right, if you have questions, just email me as they come up, or I can gladly come down and talk to grade levels. Just let me know. We're here to help. And then Joel and I will work on kind of those fun little notes to give the kids before testing. Hopefully give them a little boost during those tough weeks. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time this morning.